Hi everybody, welcome back to Mando Lessons. My name's Baron Collins Hill, and this week's lesson is not a mandolin lesson. It's more of just a general music lesson. I've been thinking a lot lately about the fundamentals of ear training and learning by ear and the oral tradition, all the sort of stuff that I promote on my website rather than learning from written music, learning to hear melodies and then reproduce them on your instrument. And I've been thinking a lot about the fundamentals, which comes down to essentially just noticing what is happening when you hear music. Now, if you're familiar with my website, I teach a lot of traditional instrumental fiddle tunes for the mandolin, and I teach them phrase by ear, where it's just me playing the mandolin and you're listening for those changes of intervals and rhythms that build up a fiddle tune. Now, that's all well and good when it's just me, but let's say we're in a bluegrass jam, and there's a mandolin player playing, and there's a fiddle player playing, a banjo player, a bass, a guitar, maybe a dobro, any other instrument. It doesn't even need to be bluegrass specific. Any song you hear on the radio is going to have some selection of instruments and sounds and vocals going on. And a really important thing to do is do some really active, deep listening and try to find all the little parts that are in there. So what is the mandolin doing at any given time? What is that little drum sound that's hidden in the back of the mix? All that sort of stuff. The more you can notice that, the better. One of my favorite YouTube channels is Rick Beato, who's a musician and a record producer, and he has a great series called What Makes This Song Great? And what he does is he takes a track, he works a lot with sort of pop music over the last 50, 70 years. He'll take a track and sort of guide you through it and sort of say, hey, listen to what's going on right here. And, ooh, I love the sound of this instrument. And, oh, listen to that little synthesizer line in the back. It's not traditional music, but it's probably a lot of music you're familiar with. He does Steely Dan. He does, a lot of sort of classic pop and rock and roll music, and really gives me a great appreciation for it because he's able to break things down and show you what to be listening for. I'll leave a link to his YouTube channel if you're not already familiar with it. I'll put a link in the description of this video. So hearing these awesome educational breakdowns of some great classic songs from the last 70 years really got me thinking about, as a musician, what am I doing when I'm either listening to an entire group of musicians or trying to learn a melody or integrate with a new group? Like, what's going on with my ears and my brain? And that's what I want to talk about a little bit. So whatever your chosen style of music is, I'll use bluegrass, for example, you're going to have a number of instruments going on. And I really urge you, find some of your favorite records. It doesn't matter, again, what the genre is. It can be rock and roll, it can be bluegrass, it can be fiddle tunes, it can be music from anywhere around the world, it can be heavy metal. It doesn't matter. Find a set of headphones, because that's really the best way to really hear all the little parts. And make an exercise. It can be one track, or it could be an album. It doesn't matter how much you're doing it. Just doing a little bit of it regularly is really helpful. And just go through, and there's a couple ways you could approach it. You could say, I'm going to listen to this and try to notice all the little things. And really listen hard for things that are happening in the background. Or you can go through and say, okay, I'm going to listen to this track, but I'm only going to really kind of focus my mind in on the guitar, for example. And then you can listen to it again and say, this time I'm going to only listen to the mandolin. And that building that ability to really listen closely is a huge benefit when it comes to playing, because it allows you to be that much more detailed in your understanding of what you're hearing, which allows you to get more information that you can then use to play the music that you're listening to. This exercise may seem simple, but it can really take some getting used to, especially with more complex kinds of music that have more layers and more things going on, and electric instruments and synthesizers. All of that builds a really beautiful sound, but it can be really hard to kind of parse through it all and notice what instrument's making what sound. How is it recorded? Is it a very airy recording where there's a lot of the sound of the room or a live performance? Or is it a very kind of intimate sound where all the instruments are mic'd really close, so you're hearing all these little micro details in the instruments, and it's a much more close sounding recording. That's why I really like Rick Beato's What Makes This Song Great series, because he has, often he will have sort of the stems of the track so you can hear every every individual instrument. So he can say, hey, check out this drum sound, and then he'll pull up just the drum track so you can really focus in on it. And then he brings it back into the full mix of the song, and you see how it all interacts. So going back to bluegrass, for example, saying, okay, listening to this record, what do I hear? That's the first question. You say, okay, I hear a mandolin. Maybe you hear a mandolin because you're a mandolin player, and that's the first sound that jumps out to your ear. Is there a fiddle? Is there a guitar? Is there a bass? Is there a dobro? Is there a banjo? Sort of what instruments are you hearing? And then you'll slowly learn through, listening to a lot of music in this way, how to sort of focus your listening into a particular instrument, and then seeing how they all interact together to make the music that we love to listen to. That process really directly translates into developing your ear from a playing perspective, because when you're able to hear something, whether it's, the guitar plays a little lick in a jam that you're at, and you say, oh, I heard that, and you maybe play it back at them just as a way to be like, yeah, I hear what you're doing, I like that, I'm going to play off that idea. Or just to be able to have a better understanding of what's going on around you. So you're like, oh, okay, everything's getting quiet. Or, oh, it's the guitar solo. The guitar doesn't have as much volume as a mandolin, so I should really lay back and make sure the guitar can be heard at any given time. All of these sort of smaller details really add up to a really important part of the music. And also, as you listen in closer, you'll start to hear smaller details, which then directly translates into, if you're learning a melody and something goes, a phrase that I just made up, maybe on first listening you get, it's close, and then you listen closer and you say, oh, they're actually doing, I'm playing it a little different every time, but then you say, listen again and say, oh, they got a little slide in there. Etc. You can see what I'm saying here. As you listen and as you get better at listening, you start to hear more things, you start to hear smaller details, and that all develops into you becoming a better musician. So your homework after this lesson is to go watch some Rick Beato, What Makes This Song Great. Great series if you haven't already. Again, I'll link one in the description. And then take that practice to your favorite music. Doesn't matter what kind of music it is. Put on your favorite record and just work on listening deeply and listening hard and really listening for all the little details of every instrument. It'll really change your musical world. And I'm currently rediscovering that. I used to do it a lot when I was in college and really sit down, listen to a record like I was watching a movie. But, in the last 10 years, it really has kind of turned more into listening to music either for the tune, it's like, okay, I'm going to listen to this so I can get the melody and then I'm done. Or just having music on in the background. But I've really been getting back into enjoying music from a production standpoint and from a deep listening standpoint. And if you haven't experimented with that, I highly recommend it. That's all for now. If you're looking for more mandolin-related videos, definitely subscribe to Mando Lessons if you haven't already. I've got a Patreon page that helps me put out new lessons every week, and I also have a PayPal donation. Links in the description. Not required, but greatly appreciated and helps me keep this channel running. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.